Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is 7 awesome things about Gemini. And this is a series that I have started for some of the wonderful attributes of each sign of the zodiac. This may manifest as a sun sign, but also the rising sign and other prominent positions that connect to personal planets like Venus and Mars, or the moon, things like that. So anyway, number 1 is funny, and it's entertaining and clever. And usually when you meet somebody who is a Gemini, you'll notice that they have a very quick wit. And this also has to do with their natural intelligence, which I will get to in a minute. But there's like this entertaining quality about Gemini, and if you're somebody who meets this person, you may be able to have long conversations with them. And they also seem like a lot of fun, and they are a lot of fun. So it's not just the kind of person that is, you'd call salt of the earth, but not very exciting. And I'm not going to name any names or signs. Some signs come across as very solid and reliable, but not the most entertaining signs, but they don't have to be. We're all different types of personalities. And Geminis they have that nervous energy, and they seem like they're almost like flitting like a butterfly here and there and everywhere. But they also come across as very amusing and a lot of fun to be around. Number 2 is versatility. Gemini is a mutable air sign, so they tend to have a lot of different interests, and therefore they can be good at many different things. And I didn't mention this, but even in terms of physical attributes, Gemini can have very good hand motor skills, fine motor skills, because Gemini is ruled by the hands. And so they tend to be very good at things that involve, being able to manipulate matter very deftly. So you could say things like carpentry maybe, or just something, anything where maybe even like sculpture, but I'm thinking of something else. I can't think of it at the moment, but there are some, maybe even like painting and things along those lines. But their versatility can make it so they can get along with people from different walks of life, and they enjoy that kind of variety in their lives. This also makes them very interesting people because they have their hands in so many different pies. Number 3 is glib. And so Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which is about communication. And Gemini people, as with all air signs, are intellectually oriented. And with Gemini, it's all about communication with the air signs. Geminis tend to be very articulate. They may be a little bit wordy, where if they write a novel instead of being concise to the point. And the same when they're talking. But they're able to flow with language. Whereas some people are just very tight-lipped, and we know those types of people. And all of us have our preferences of what kind of person we wish to hang around with, but Gemini people can have that kind of talent where they're able to communicate with ease. And this makes them a natural for journalism and writing of any kind, and radio or YouTube. Somebody with a strong Gemini will clean up a lot of times because they do have this facility in their speech. Number 4, intellectually curious, knows a little about a lot. And it kind of goes along with what I was saying about being versatile. But this can help Gemini when they are looking for work, for instance, because they may have experiences in different areas, and they're able to kind of give the impression that they are well-versed in many things. They may just have a superficial knowledge of something, and yet they can give the impression that they are well-versed in it. And so this can help them be more well-rounded. But they do tend to have that broad knowledge and broad-mindedness to be very, fascinated by different things, and therefore this gives them a general, what we would say, tolerant disposition, but also, again, it makes them well-rounded, whereas some people are very narrow because they don't really explore much beyond their tunnel vision interests. And, I think one great way this benefits Gemini too is that if they don't have a lot of formal education, even if they're high school dropouts, they can really give the impression of being well educated, because some Geminis, maybe even the majority of them, regardless of how much formal schooling they have, they will tend to be voracious readers. And that can mean that they're self-taught. And, there's nothing wrong with that either, because that can give you the same information. Sometimes it can even be better because you're actively seeking it out. So it means that you're really passionate about that particular subject matter. Number 5, youthful. And this is a big one, I think. It's not just for superficial reasons of looking younger than their peers, but it's kind of a state of mind as well. So Geminis tend to always have a touch of that youthful quality, no matter how old they get. And this can be apparent with Gemini rising, where the appearance is really front and center, because if you have the sun in Gemini, but let's say you have Cancer rising, you may actually resemble more of a Cancer individual than your Gemini sun. And so how this can manifest is just, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed well into your senior years, very, probably a thin build. You may be very nimble, where you're very flexible, because that's kind of like how I envision Gemini people. And you just have kind of a sparkle in your eyes and a skip in your step. There's that sense of the sprite in the Gemini. I always associate that with Geminis, sprites. And you just are fresh. I mean, you're a Gemini person is never stagnant. They are moving forward. They are learning new things. They're exposing themselves to new ideas. I should have put flexible along with versatile, perhaps, because I think that's an important one. But even with the appearance, they could be physically flexible too. Number 6, independent. And I have been saying this for a few signs because I'll probably say this for almost all the air and fire signs. But Gemini is a sign that does like variety, and that includes the company that they keep. So usually Gemini people, even if they're married, if they're or they have a significant partner, are not going to be the type to stay home every night. They tend to be very sociable people. As a matter of fact, that was number 7. I probably could have combined the two. But in terms of independence, this can cover all areas. I mean, even at work, they don't need to necessarily be heavily managed because they tend to take the initiative. All masculine signs, the air and fire signs, tend to be very individualistic. So they have their own ideas about how to do something. And actually, this can clash in a workplace where they're expected to take orders because they may really feel like they have a better way of accomplishing whatever the task is, and can feel constrained by what they feel is the person above them telling them what to do. So, and also with relationships, Gemini people are not possessive. I should have put that too, because that's a big one. When you're in a relationship with somebody and they are very possessive, if you are a water sign, you may actually think this is a sign of being cared for. And so it may not rankle you so much, but a fire sign or an air sign person will get really offended. They'll feel claustrophobic, and they will generally try to get away from such a person. With Gemini, it's almost like they run the opposite risk of being so open-ended that they do not convey enough of that feeling of what a monogamous relationship involves. And but if you're somebody who likes a long leash, then you'll love a Gemini person. And, it's funny, when I write down these things, I just do whatever comes to the top of my head. But I was really trying to think of, a couple of them, and it seems like they almost overlapped. I could have also said that Gemini people are not subjective. They have a tendency to see things very objectively and not take offense to things very easily. I'm talking about the typical one. Obviously, if they have a lot of Cancer energy, being the sign next door, they may be a lot more hypersensitive. Okay. So number 7 does connect to number 6, and it's sociable. And this can be very good if somebody's throwing a party, because the Gemini person can allow the conversation never to grind to a halt. They'll always be there to keep up the topics flowing, and just in general be somebody who's an asset to a party. And Geminis also, they, like I say, because they lack that sense of being narrow-minded, they will strike up conversations with anyone. They're very, I would say they're very extroverted, and they don't have that shyness that you associate with a Cancer, or that kind of secretive quality of Scorpio. And I think they can be easy to get along with in this sense, because they are very objective. And think about the people that you have had problems with in life and what has been the main problem. A lot of times people who are problematic take things too personally. They create drama. That's not typical of Gemini. They try to stay above the fray, and they actually don't like a lot of heavy emotions. So they can keep things light, which in some instances is very important, like in a workplace environment. Okay, well, I'm going to end it there. If you like my style of astrological readings, please check out my website, which is linked below this video. Take care. Bye.